In Nobody's Hero, after a pretty awkwardly done nightmare, the pressure of being Mark's sidekick has finally kicked into Mark's life. Um, I kind of feel like this episode. I get what this episode's trying to do, but I kind of feel like it drags a bit in the middle with Mark trying to deal with a situation at school and it goes on for too long. But by the end of the episode, we get introduced to a new Lightning Knight called Sparks. And at this point, Mark finally decides to quit being Ace's sidekick. Um, will it last? It all depends on the next episode. But yeah, that's all I can really say about this episode. I would talk about Sparks, but I feel like that's probably best to save it for the next one because she doesn't get introduced until like the very end of the episode. And on a side note, I will say this is probably one of the more funnier episodes with certain lines like Mark looking at Mark's dad's looking at Mark's grade and he sees he has a D in English and he goes, "A D in English? He is English." I just think that was a bit of a funny line. And another line from Mr. Chesper who has his suitcase run over by the ice cream van. He just goes, "That was a brand new suitcase 4 years ago." I don't know why, I just found those lines funny, but overall, a bit of a one of those episodes that tries to be more than it actually is. But yeah, in Ace is Wild, Ace is turned into a zombie slave by Googler, and Sparks goes to Mark to get some help. Now, since Sparks plays a bigger role in this episode, I might as well talk about her and her character. She's a younger, much more headstrong Lightning Knight. It's good to have another Lightning Knight after having Googler and an anti-hero in Random Virus. Having a proper another hero, spices things up a bit. Um, I know some people will probably think her inclusion is a bit could be a bit unnecessary because it kind of overshadows Ace's relationship with Mark. But I don't know. I think she works as another sidekick, if that makes sense. She's the more loyal. She knows what she's doing type sidekick. She doesn't question too much. I guess you could say she's kind of like the Robin of the superheroes in some ways. Um, uh, at the end of the episode, this is the episode where Mark makes a decision whether to rejoin Ace or just live his own life. I mean, obviously he does rejoin him because, otherwise we won't have a show anymore. Um, one thing, there's the pretty much the highlight of this episode is the beginning. It's definitely one of the more action-packed beginnings that we have. It's really cool to see Lord Fear do a bit more action this time. And I really love how at one point he whacks his staff on the ground, which creates a bit of a shock wave. I don't think it happens again in the series, but it is cool to see him do more physical stuff, and it is, pretty awesome to see more action sequences. Apart from that, there's really nothing else to talk about in this episode. But one side thing I want to talk about is Googler. He's a bit OP now that I think about it. He's very overpowered for just a simple henchman villain. I mean, these gloves can turn Lightning Knight's human and turn him into a zombie. Yeah, I'm actually surprised they don't try and do that in other episodes. Unless it's a one time thing, I don't know. But yeah, that was Aces Wild. In the field trip, Mark's class has a field trip to the carnival, and that's pretty much it. That's the whole plot of the episode. You could argue that this is a filler episode But I would call it one of the more fun filler episodes because most of the praise I've got to go to the camera work. At one point, Mark's class gets trapped in the fun house and they get sealed in by Lord Fear, and the camera work really makes you feel claustrophobic in those scenes. And another thing I've got to praise is the practical effects with the puppet. There's a puppet that Dirty Rat dresses up as that Duff Kent uses to entertain the visitors of the carnival, and it's well done puppetry. I've got to give him credit for that, especially the part where he runs away and it makes it look like the puppet is actually running, and yeah, it's actually pretty well done for what is essentially a, I don't want to say low budget, but a, for a minimum budget children's show. But apart from that, there's nothing really else to talk about because the only other thing that happens is that Sparks tries to take on Lord Fear on her own, and he overpowers her and Ace saves her. And another thing that I've just got to point out, this is one of those episodes where the whole Mark and Samantha storyline starts. It becomes a bit repetitive. You know how this is going to turn out. He tries to get together with her, hang out with her. He has to run away. She gets mad. They get back together at the end, and they make up. It's you're starting to see the pattern. But another thing is, I feel like this is the episode where Lord Fear starts becoming a bit more comedic, and he starts losing his threat level. I mean, not saying he was not saying he was a terrifying villain to begin with. Well, I don't know. It depends on your age, on how you find skeletons. But yeah, I feel like this is the episode where his threat level starts diminishing, which is a shame, and he doesn't really get it back until near the end of season one. But apart from that, pretty fun episode. What else can I say?